of you to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. Hope you're having a wonderful start to your day or had a wonderful day. So, as you know, we have been doing the Science of Charity series this week. Today is the third in that series. Probably we'll have one more concluding session. I'll let you know. But today we are going to continue on our discussion on the science of charity, where we spoke about, why charity is important. And yesterday we spoke about the different types of charities. And today we will continue on that discussion. And I'm looking forward to another engaging session with all of you. So without much ado, let me start sharing my screen and we will get underway. My screen. Are you able to see it?
Ji, yes. Ji, perfect.
All right. So we will get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru like we always do. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right. So Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening again. So as part of this Science of Charity series, yesterday we looked at Shloka 17, 20 to 22, which talks about the different kinds of charities. The Tamasic charity, the Rajasic charity, and the Sattvic charity. And then we briefly spoke about the Nirgun charity as well. Today we will shift the gear back again and talk about charity at a as a concept itself, which we are going to talk about in chapter 18, verse 5, the one that we had introduced to begin with. So I'm going to recite it and then you are welcome to follow along. Yagya dana tapah karma na tyajyam karyameva tat yagyo danam tapaschaiva Pavanani Manishinam. Okay, let's take a few hands.
Sam ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yajnadana karma natyajyam iti cha natyajyam karyameva tat yajnodanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Sandhya, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yagya dana tapah karma natyajyam karyameva tat yagyo danam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam.
Very nice, thank you. Let's take
Radhe Radhe. Suryaprakash ji.
Radhe Radhe. Nitin ji. Yajnadana tapakarma natyajyam karyameva tat yajnodanam tapachaiva pavanani manishinam.
Very nice, thank you. All right, we'll take the remaining hands.
Rupa ji, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yajnodanam tapaschaiva pavanani manishinam.
Very nice, thank you, Rupaji. Radhe Radhe.
Diva, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Yajnadana tapakarma natyajyam karyameva tat यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणम्
Wonderful, Diva. Very nice.
पल्लवी जी राधे राधे
Radhe Pallavi ji.
राधे राधे यज्ञदान तपः कर्म न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम् राधे
Very
राधे
nice. Thank you.
राहुल राधे राधे
Okay. We have 4 more hands. Let's freeze those and then let's get started. Go ahead, Rahul.
यज्ञदान तपः कर्म राज्यं कार्यमेव तथा यज्ञो पावनानि मनीषिणाम्
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Rahul.
सैम जी राधे राधे
राधे राधे यज्ञदानं तपः कर्मं न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तथा यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम् राधे राधे
Radhe Radhe. Thank you, Sanvi. Okay, let's take the last 2 hands.
रिया जी राधे राधे
राधे राधे
Radhe Radhe.
यज्ञदान तपः कर्म न त्याज्यं कार्यमेव तत् यज्ञोदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम्
Very
Radhe.
nice. Thank you. Last but not the least, Falguni ji.
फाल्गुनी जी
राधे 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 यज्ञदान तपः कर्म नाताज्यं कार्यम् एव तत् यज्ञदानं तपश्चैव पावनानि मनीषिणाम् राधे राधे
Cool. Very nice. Thank you, Radhe Radhe. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna is saying that actions based on sacrifice, charity, and penance should never be abandoned. So these are the 3 things that we should do regardless of what station of life we are in. And even if we have sufficiently elevated on the path of spirituality, wise, having wisdom, these things should not be abandoned. They must certainly be performed. Indeed, acts of sacrifice, charity, and penance are purifying even for those who are wise. Now, when it says purifying means it actually results in cleansing of our antakaran, right? We have spoken about the very basis of spirituality, or the very objective, the key objective of spirituality is to cleanse ourselves, to purify our antakaran. And these 3 activities accelerate that process, that help us purify our antakaran. And why is it needed to purify our antakaran? Because our antakaran, as part of our subtle causal bodies which go along with us after this life, that baggage that soul carries, they go along with it. And that purified antakaran is something that is for us, for the keeping in our next life. Okay, so it's for our benefit only. And that is why God says you continue doing these activities. So 2 ways it will help. One is it will cleanse it. That is one part of it, where we are getting purified. And secondly, we are carrying it forward. So when we do charity, not only we are building the sanskars to give and experience that happiness out of it, but also paying it forward for ourselves only. So that when we come down in next lives, we are not, struck with poverty and stuff like that, because when we have given as per the scriptural injunctions, that means we have fulfilled our duty or obligation around it. On the contrary, when we hold, then there are consequences around that as well. We know that, right? Lakshmi being an energy, it's very chanchal. You can't really hold it. It will find its ways, like water does, like time does. Lakshmi also finds its ways. And if you don't put it to good use, it will find ways to basically where it may not be utilized in its proper sense, right? When we have to pay for so many bills that we don't really want to do, like lawyers' bills, doctors' bills, and stuff like that. Not that that's always the case, but if Lakshmi is put to good use, that is also a privilege. And then it is like paying it forward, and the benefit that we reap from it is long lasting. So let's continue with this conversation. Now, Lord Krishna is pronouncing, as we had said, that we should never renounce actions which elevate us and are beneficial for humankind. And these actions, as we see, these three things he's saying, do not, stop doing that, no matter what stage of life you are in, at what stage of spiritual trajectory you are on. Sacrifice, charity, and penance. And we have been focusing on the charity aspect of it. Now, if these actions are performed in proper consciousness, they do not bind us. Instead, they help us grow spiritually. Now, charity also, the consciousness, as we saw, it matters. What are you, why are you doing it for? And what are you thinking when you are doing? That gives you the result. Okay, in addition to the vessel in which you are putting the charity as well. So that is a very important concept to understand that we spoke about yesterday. We also spoke about, there are enough examples in the nature itself, right? Pibanti Nadya, we spoke about this, like rivers, they don't drink their own water. And then the trees, they don't eat their own fruit. And clouds, they don't drink their own rain. And then the saintly devotees also, they live simply for others. That is the attitude. It's in giving we receive is the key message here. And we also spoke about this concept of Lakshmi is the eternal consort of Narayan. So the right attitude to harbor towards Lakshmi is that of King Janak as a trustee, not as Ravan, as a bhogi, that it's for my use and I'm going to utilize it for my benefit, for my bhog alone. That is the right attitude to have towards Lakshmi. And our abilities and wealth, whatever is provided to us, is provided to us by the gift. It's a gift of God to us. Right? It says the abilities, and basically everybody is endowed with some kind of a script or a music. All of us, we are unique in our abilities. So that is God's gift to us. And realizing that script and music, and then serving God back with it, is our gift back to God. So when we underutilize our potentials, or we don't really work hard on ourselves, we are doing not only a disservice to ourselves, but it's kind of being ungrateful to God as well, because He has given you the abilities. He just takes a backseat and watches you manifest those abilities. And when we do that, God is extremely pleased. But when we don't do that, waste our life in mundane thoughts and pursuits, it's a big disservice that we are not only doing to ourselves, but also to the gift that God has given us. It's like somebody has given you a good gift and you trash it or keep it somewhere, not caring about it. So it is kind of dishonoring that gift as well, right? So that incremental growth, that infinite potential that we talk about, it is almost obligatory on us to actually work towards that, because God has gifted it to us. And we do have that potential, and He will be extremely pleased when we work towards that. So that is the whole thing. And same thing goes with Lakshmi as well. It is given to us for a reason. Of course, He's going to Jan Mrityu Labhani Yash Apyash, right? God controls that. But when He's giving you money, with great power comes great responsibility as well. So if you are born a billionaire or with a silver spoon in mouth, of course, much is expected of you as well at that point, right? That dialogue from Spider-Man movie, to whom with great power comes great responsibility. So same thing happens with Lakshmi and money as well. But then that brings us to the question, do we really need to be really rich for us to start doing charity? People say, let me first get rich. Let me first become like Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, and then let's talk about charity. Okay. So we'll tackle that concept as well today. Let's move on. Now, we spoke about this concept, the three kinds of charities, Tamsik, Rajasik, and Sattvic, in this order. And we said beyond that is Nirgun charities, which are beyond the gunas, which is charity that you do for the pleasure of God and Guru, which is the highest charity. It's like depositing your tax to the government. Government will funnel it to the right sources. Okay, your burden of thinking about it is solved, provided government is channelizing it properly. Okay, in this case, it may not happen in worldly affairs, but in case of God, of course, He is the perfect justice dispensing system that He has. It will have to get funneled to the right things. So rather than doing it with a sense of doership, or doing it with some kind of a self-aggrandizement, or doing it for some kind of a intention which is not pure, which might fall into tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, it's better to put it at the feet of God and Guru and say, the best use of it. That is a consciousness one needs to build. So let's look at this in form of some stories to see how important it is, and timing is important as well. Okay. So let's talk about the stories, couple of stories. So we'll first talk about the Karan Arjun story. Okay. So Lord Krishna was always very vocal about the fact that Karan is a great giver, right? He was known for his charity. And Arjun used to question him, okay, why would you say that? Why do you think he's the biggest giver? So Krishna said, okay, let's conduct an experiment, not an experiment, but a live demo around this concept. So he said to Arjun, okay, I'm going to give you a mountain of wealth, which you need to distribute to this village. So he created a big heap of gold mountain, and he said, okay, this is the mountain that belongs to you, and you need to distribute it to the villagers. So he calls on the villagers, and starts grabbing bucket full of it, whatever he could grab in his arms, and start distributing it left, right, and center. Okay, like as if there is no tomorrow. He just starts taking it and distributing it. And so Krishna said, well done. So Arjun was pretty impressed with his effort. He tried his best and pretty much completed all the thing that was there in the time duration that he was given. So this is what he did. He said, now let's go and check out what Karan does. So he gave him the same stockpile of gold and mountain and everything. He said, you have to distribute it to these villagers now. So he called on the villagers and said, okay, take all that you can, okay, and just left off. So he did not even had a sense that it belongs to him and he is supposed to give it out. He said, okay, you just take it. He was completely detached to that process as well. Now, analytical minds would say, no, that was not very smart. They'll start fighting, villagers will start fighting, somebody will get more, all that is fine. But you look at the act part of it, okay? In those days, the people used to be pretty honest. If they are taking, they will not come back and take twice. But the point here was that he was even detached to the whole process of giving as well. That was his level of charity, completely detached to that. So he used to say, right, when Indra came to ask for his kavach, and Indra asked him, are you really sure that you want to give it? And Karan said, please take it before I change my mind, because we are not sure about our mind. It can change. So that is why it is said, when you get a noble thought, such as doing charity, or for that matter, helping anybody else, do it before your mind changes. Okay. So there's a story about Ravan and Lakshman also. When Ravan was lying on his deathbed, he was a Vidwan, he was a Pandit in that sense. So Ram asked Lakshman to go and get some words of wisdom from Ravan, because the words that come out of the mouth of a person who's dying are very, very important. So Lakshman went there and stood, in near Ravan, and apparently he was standing near his head. He said, is this the way to take knowledge? Yes, standing on my head here. So Ram, can you please tell your brother where to stand? So anyways, Ram directed him to stand towards his feet. And that's when he said, and Ravan gave him a very key nugget of wisdom. What was that wisdom? He said, I had thought about two things in life. Okay, one was to build a staircase to heaven during my, life kal, or during his lifetime. And second thought that he had was to abduct Mother Sita. He said, I postponed the first one and carried out the second one immediately. So my advice to you is do the reverse. When you get a negative thought, postpone it. And in Hindi, they call it do udhar, with negative thoughts, with bitterness. And when you get a positive, uplifting, noble, helping thought, do it immediately. Because you don't know when your mind will change, or whether you would even get that opportunity or not. Okay, so that was a piece of advice from Ravan. So if you feel like sharing something, doing some good thing, or doing charity, if that thought comes to you, don't wait, don't hesitate. Do it, because your mind is very tricky. It will give you reasons, You say, okay, now because of this, and by the time you realize it, your mind has already convinced you why not to do it. On the contrary, any negative thought comes, you want to harm somebody, you're thinking about, just postpone it. Say, okay, I have to do this, but I'll do it after a day. And then you never know, your mind, that thought might evaporate, or divine intervention might happen, wisdom might come in. A lot of good things can happen when we introduce a gap in executing something which is not good. And intuitively, we know whether it's good or not. Okay. So this is the principle. To illustrate this point, there's another story of Yudhishthir and Bhim. So Yudhishthir and Bhim, they were in the, sitting after the Mahabharata war was over. Yudhishthir was also known for, his good deeds and for taking care of his praja and people in his kingdom. So people would generally come to Yudhishthir to seek help, whatever help, monetary, financial help, or otherwise, to Yudhishthir. And one of the days, Yudhishthir was doing something, he was busy, and there was a guy who comes and he says, I need some gold coins, okay, to take care of some urgent matter. Yudhishthir said, you know what, come tomorrow, I'm busy. So this guy said, all right, I'll come tomorrow, king is busy. Bhim was there, he overheard that. And he goes out and he tells the entire kingdom, that, okay, guys, go ahead and start celebrating Diwali. Let's distribute sweets and burst crackers. Okay. And he created a spectacle outside the palace. And then Yudhishthir realized it's not Diwali or Holi. And what are these festivities for? People lighting up stuff and bursting crackers and making a lot of noise around, as if there is a big festival and cause for joy and celebration. So he asked Bhim, what's going on? He said, there's a cause for celebration. He said, what cause for celebration? He said, it is a big cause. You know what? My brother, which happens to be you, my elder brother, he has conquered Kal, conquered death. He said, how come? He said, that guy came to ask for help and you said, come tomorrow. That means you are very sure you're going to be there tomorrow. That means you have conquered Mrityu, which is a cause for celebration. So Yudhishthir got the point. Yudhishthir thought, this guy who's a glutton, I thought he has gotten fat all the way up here, but apparently he's smart and intelligent and he's got a point here. So the point here is even Yudhishthir was told that, when you have to do some good deed and you're supposed to do it right away. Don't think I'll do it. I'll postpone it because you don't know two reasons. Your mind may trick you. And secondly, you may not even get an opportunity, right? So that opportunity might be lost forever. So that is the whole idea about charity. Or for that matter, in general, any good deed that we want to perform. If our mind is postponing it, that includes reading Bhagavad Gita as well, by the way. Okay, when we say it's a retirement plan, we will read Bhagavad Gita when we are old. We will do it after we are, settled our kids or married them off, or when we have nothing else to do in life, then we'll read Bhagavad Gita. Okay. And when you reach there, then your mind will say, first of all, it will make up excuses. Okay, no, let me first complete this and that. But let's say you get to the point of reading, and it will say, you know what, just read a 18th adhyay only. And then it will say, you know what, let's even leave that. Okay, let's read one shloka only, one couplet only, and your mind will keep on tricking you. So any good thought, any good deed that you want to do, don't postpone it, is the key message. Okay. Like they say, nakad with good deed, udhar with bad deed. Just postpone it. It may not even fructify or manifest, because when we introduce a bit of a gap, it always says when we act impulsively, like you got a stimulus and you immediately react, that's when you're operating out of your mind. But let's say this is the stimuli and this is your response to it. If you are able to introduce even a micro millimeter of gap in between, then divine intervention can happen, because you have created a space for it now. If you don't create a space for it, nothing will happen. And when you create space, good things can happen. Just postpone it, just give it a break, take some time off, give the other person time to think, right? Anything can happen basically in those kind of things. So divine basically intervention requires a bit of a space, and that space has to be created by us only. Okay, this is how it goes. Now let's move on. Okay, let's talk about the charity that some of the big philanthropists have done in this world. So one is Bill and Melinda Gates. They have done 28 billion. I think it's running, probably, don't quote me for the numbers exactly, but kind of you might be getting a sense, right? Then we have Mr. Andrew, he did 268 billion. Warren Buffett, he was made to pledge 25 billion, which is pretty much about his entire wealth a few years back by Bill Gates. And then there's a guy, he's Ramesh. He's putting 5 rupees 5 coin at a nearby temple every day. Okay. Who do you think is the biggest donor here? Anybody who wants to take this question? Yes, Samji.
Sam,
Ramesh. Ramesh,
Why Ramesh in this case?
because he was earning only 5 rupees a day, whole day, kind of 5 rupees roughly. So the whole money, whatever probably he got it, whole day's earning, and wherever Balmulinda, Varun, Andrew, they must be having a lot, so they may be giving a portion of that part, maybe 10%, 5%, whatever. But in Ramesh's case, almost 100% he must have given it.
Yeah. So I think you bring in a good point. I see a few more hands. Let's take those. Arnima is next. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Ramesh, but I have one more question that, the charity that Karan did, that did not purify him at the end of it. And here you have written one person who is doing a temple, other people are just doing charities. Is that just the reason?
That did not purify him. What does that
I
mean?
mean, Karan's charity was so much more than Arjun, but his attachment towards Krishna did not increase.
Right, that is there. But so from a dimension of charity, he was not attached to see. Charity is one of the many tools out there, right? It is one of the many tools. So from that sense, he was probably at a higher pedestal than Arjun, because not having a sense of doership around it. But charity alone, I don't know if that is a sufficient condition for you to develop love for God. That is a different concept altogether. So we are focusing only on one dimension. And in that dimension, he was at a higher pedestal than Arjun, is what Krishna was trying to prove. But yeah, is charity alone to develop love for God? Probably not. You need to do something more as well. I think that's probably what it means. But yeah, good point. Yes, Vikash, you wanted to add something? So let's say,
everyone is
before I add that, there used to be a logical question in English and reading comprehension, which says necessary but not sufficient condition. So this is probably like that. It is necessary, but probably not sufficient. You need to do some other things as well. Charity is one of the many dimensions that we are exploring here, because Lord Krishna said yagya, tap, and dan. So dan he's saying austerity also. And then he's saying the third part is penance also. So all three are important in this particular piece. And then at end of the day, all Devic gunas are important. Right? So love for God is an amalgamation of all the Devic gunas, and charity being one of the front runners in that. Yes, Vikash.
here everyone is a donor, biggest donor out of everyone. Is you can't compare ki he's the biggest donor, he's the biggest donor. Everyone
Apple to orange. What is the basis, right? So we'll get into that. Good point. There has to be some basis. There has to be a common denominator around it. We'll get back to that. Let's continue this discussion and then we'll come back to the remaining hands as well. So good point, Vikash. So yeah, what is the basis? I mean, how would you say one is better over other? And there has to be some kind of a formula or some kind of a basis around it. So to take this discussion forward, let's understand it. So it is said that it's not the quantity aspect of it. It is a fraction of what you can do. Okay. So fraction of what you can do. So now from a percentage standpoint, let's look at these people, what's going on here. 28 billion out of 74 billion, 37%. This guy did 90%, okay, of his wealth. Warren Buffett, I think he was 42% when this data was recorded, or wherever I recorded this data from. Anyways, and this guy is anyway about, Samji said he earns 5 rupees, I put 10 rupees, but the point, you're getting it right. Now the point here is that it is the fraction of what you give, not necessarily the amount that you are giving. Okay, that counts in God's record books. So when Banaras Hindu University was being built, I think Madan Mohan Malviya was rallying funds for that. And it is still written there when he was doing that. If you go to the board, I think it is said in the top donors list, they have put a name of I think a auto rickshaw driver who donated, I think, about 3 annas in that funding drive. But the point was why he's in the topmost donors. He was not the one who gave thousands or lakhs at that time, which would have made for a great amount, right? For them. It was because he used to earn, I think, around 4 annas or something like that, and he donated about 75 to 80% of it. It's pretty much his entire salary for that day. So that is a big thing. You know how much pinch he would have felt, right? Maybe he would have shrunk the budget for his food, or maybe he didn't have that. We don't know that. So God says when you do it with a sense of austerity, not with a sense of comfort, a little bit of pinch you are willing to feel with that's when it matters. So charity is important, of course, but then when you start grading it, other factors come into play as well. God is not impressed if you give him $1 billion. He doesn't need anything, to be honest. Okay. He has billions, trillions lying with him. Kuber himself is his, what do you call that, at his service, at his disposal whenever he wants. Lakshmi is his consort. But it is the fraction what you are lending out is what truly matters when it comes to charity. Okay. Now we'll pick up on this concept and I'll introduce one more concept, but let's take a few hands in the meantime. I think we have a hard stop today, so we'll take maybe a couple of hands and then we'll move forward with another concept that I wanted to introduce today. Yes.
In the meantime, a comment in the chat box from Smita ji.
Sure.
She's asking, charity is a good thought, but second thought comes about, is it worthwhile donating here? What would be your advice? Everywhere some other negatives are there.
Is it worthwhile what?
Is it worthwhile donating here? What would be your advice? Everywhere some other negatives are there.
Worthwhile. See,
She
this
has
is
outway to donate.
this is where it's part of your personal journey. You know, you need to find, that's why in the path of spirituality, especially if you get a mentor or a guru, it's very, very helpful on this path. Otherwise, we will be capped by our intellectual capacity. Now, you need to, if you have a good reason to believe that your guru is Shruttri and Brahmanisht, and he's directing his work towards God and has no other motive, you can make a best guess by your understanding, right? Then it's a safe bet. But other than that, you can pray to God that to give you wisdom or clarity around this concept, because God also knows you are trying your best around it. So he'll lead you to some avenue which will not derail your spiritual journey. That much I can tell you. Because if we are in a waiting mode for the rest of our life, we are not able to make up our mind, then also we are losing time, right? So until then, we do the best and leave to God the rest and pray to him that, you know what, you know my intention and you know why I'm doing it. So please lead me to somewhere where my money is put to good use, because I really want to do that, you know, earn the Paramarth for myself for my next life. That's the best we can do, right? So that way it helps. But yeah, it's not a straightforward question that you're asking. So it's part of our journey as well, right? Where we find the right recipient for the money that you're going to give. So that is how it goes. By the way, I wanted to announce one more thing. And on July 1st, we are going to have a trivia on the Guru concept. So do not miss that. Okay, we are going to have a fun trivia that we will create for you, and you can test your understanding around it and learn a few things around that concept as well. So July 1st, 10 a.m., block your calendars. We are going to have a trivia followed by a beautiful lecture from Maharaji, because we are going to celebrate Guru that day. So
10 a.m. CST, IST.
it's going to be CST, 10 a.m. CST, which means 8:30 p.m. IST, right? 8:30 p.m.
9:30, I guess. Yes, check. 8:30.
9:30, 8:30,
Check it out, yeah.
8:30, I believe. Yeah, so 8:30, which, so please do block your time for that. And then we have other things planned for that day as well, like we always do whenever the functions come up leading up to the family camp. So please don't miss out on that. Just wanted to announce that quickly. Okay, we can take one more hand maybe with the video on, and then maybe a couple of hands. Yes, go ahead. Prashanta.
Prashant, Radhe, Radhe. Yeah, Prashanta.
Radhe, Radhe, thank you. I think we should know where the money is going, right? Whatever the charity is going, and for what we are donating the money. If we are just donating it and the temple priests and temple committee administration are utilizing it for their own benefit, then there is no worth and no point in donating money to the temple as well. But the charity which might be gone to orphanage or maybe old age home or somewhere, that's for the upliftment of humankind, rather than just fulfilling the material pleasures of ask temple administration people. So I think in my perspective, where is that going? I think we should know that, right, before we can decide or claim this is right or this is wrong.
Yeah. So is it going for Guru Seva or is it going for Jan Seva? It's a good question, right? It's part of our spiritual journey to ask that question. And answer to that will lead you to direct your money to a channel with where it is used. Now, if you look at that movie, oh my God, it has exaggerated that concept, right? Putting things to God, they say, okay, it's better to serve the needy, and that is a fair point. I get that point. But the point here, another part of it is, when you put it with your intention at the lotus feet of God, you're actually serving a higher purpose. It's a very purified intention at that point, right? Because God knows where to direct it. So, yeah, I take those kind of things with a pinch of salt, because we don't know, right? So that's where we need to find the right outlet for it. And when we are sure this outlet is right, it is trustworthy, and it is a Guru Seva, then after that, our headache is gone. You don't have to worry about it at that point. But yeah, that's part of our spiritual journey to figure out the outlet that you have found to channelize your money is right or not. Very valid point. Thank you for sharing.
Like you said, that fruit example. If you give a beggar a fruit, he uses that energy and goes on killing people, then you'll get the scene of that, right? So maybe if the hospital, temple administration people are using it for their material satisfaction,
Right.
then
And at the
it's
same
better to
time,
donate to orphanage.
true. And at the same time, if they are not, how would you know that, right? So how would you know the intent on how it is being directed? That is very difficult to know, right? And if we are skeptical and stop doing charity, that is also not good. If you are skeptical, oh my God, this money is going to be used like this and that, and we stop doing that, that is also not good. So when we really want to do it for the right reasons, God is there. He will lead us to the right channels and he will inspire us. His idea is not to put our hands back because we remain skeptical for the rest of our lives. That's not the idea, but good point. Nevertheless, now, one more thing I wanted to bring in, and then we can do that. I know we have a hard stop today at 9:30 or 10. There are three kinds of things that we can offer. Sorry, Shamli, you wanted to say?
Maybe, sorry, no, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Which of the one is the easiest one to offer? Dhan, tan, or man? Okay, these are the three things typically we can offer, right? As part of our offerings. Man, dhan, or tan. And why? By the way, we can continue either on this or previous if you want to add. Please go ahead. I can see a few hands. We can probably take
mixture
2
of
minutes.
emotions. So there'll be some sad stories and some happy stories and some villains will be there. So there'll be anger.
Manishi, Radhe, please go ahead.
Yes, Manishi.
Radhe, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I was going to share that story about the university. Hold on a second.
Your
Can
voice
you hear
is...
me now? Can you hear me now?
Slightly better,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me try to change my headset. Yeah, I was going to mention the example about the Banaras University, but now I have another one that talks about in the Purana, I believe it was the Rajsuya Yagna, when Yudhishthira was doing it, and it was so opulent that I think it was like giving away gold plates. You can take it with you. And then the scroll comes and he says, Dik Yagya, because he's trying to, right? And then he's trying to, so Bhima is about to squash the scroll and Krishna says, hold on, ask him why he said Dik Yagya. And then he tells them story about the family that was very poor. And I'll just make it short, that they were having a hard time getting food every day. And this one time they had food. And so they were about to enjoy their meal. And then somebody comes at their home and asks, saying, I'm very hungry. Can you please help? And so the husband gives his food and said, I will I will fast for today. So I will give my share. You guys enjoy. And then the mother, his wife and the kids uh, are able to are about to start, and then another person comes, and then the wife is like, I'm going to follow my husband's example, and I'm going to give him my food. So she gives it, and then the same thing happens with the son and his wife are about to eat, and then another person comes, and the son gives up his, saying, I'm going to follow my parents' example, and then the bahu is left, the daughter-in-law, his wife, and then another person comes and says, I'm going to follow my in-laws and my husband's example. And she gives up hers. And when she gives up her, so gods are very pleased. And so they shower flowers. And the squirrel jumps in, squirrel was there, so jump in joy. And then when it lands, it one side turns gold. So the squirrel came to Yudhishthir's Yagya. When he heard about that, he came to see if he could turn gold, but he didn't. So that's when he said Dikyagya, because, and then Krishna's, Yudhishthira asked Maharaj, where did we go wrong? And Krishna says, well, you're using all the stuff you gathered from other kings and your people. These people gave up what they had, what they needed to survive. So their charity is a lot more more than yours. Sorry if I messed up, but I think you get the,
No, I
hope I
think
made sense.
Thank you for that beautiful story. Yeah. Just to, again, in case you missed out on that story. So there was a squirrel, whose one side was golden. Okay. It had turned golden. I'll tell you, basically that's the story, Manish. She said, and then when it jumped, it wanted to turn its other side gold as well. It jumped when the Rajsuya Yagya was performed by Yudhishthir, but it did not turn gold. And it said Dhik Yagya. Okay. Dhik Yagya means that what kind of a Yagya was that? And Yudhishthir was surprised, why did she say that? And Krishna basically tells, its side turned into gold because when it jumped in joy, the incident happened where, like Manishi beautifully narrated, that there was a family who was going to have a meal. And basically there were mother, father, and son and his wife there. They were having a meal and a guest comes. So now they have to, give up one of the meals. Father gives up. He said, anyway, I can give it up, so you guys can have it. So father gives up his meal. Then another guy comes. Then the mother also gives up meal. Right. And then they said, anyway, we are, you guys are young, so you can carry on with that. And then another guy comes. His son also gives up his meal. And then finally daughter also gives up meal. Another guest comes. So they sacrificed pretty much all that was required for their sustenance at that point, right? So that was considered a higher charity as opposed to what Yudhishthir did, although he was donating, I think, gold and all the precious stuff during that yagya. So it's the spirit of sacrifice or the austerity that you are willing to undertake along with that act that gives you a higher credit and a higher purification as well. Thank you, Manishi, for bringing that story. Let's hear from others as well. We have 6 more minutes, so we have to wrap it up in probably a minute each.
Rahul bhai, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Just 2 quick comments from the chat. Kumarji says Madan Mohan Walia had the name of the hand rickshaw driver, not the autos, because autos were not available then.
Okay, rickshaw driver, auto. That's a good technical point. Thank you, Kumarji, for correcting that.
And one more comment from Monica ji, that more than temples, churches or mosques have money. Temple money is taken by government as it is taxable in our country, and by moral, temple anyways will not misuse. However, one bad example of any temple should not be generalized. As devotee, we must associate ourselves with the temple, and we will know their efforts instead of judging, as we might judge wrong without complete info.
We have bad apples everywhere, so we can't paint everything with a broad brush for sure. Good point.
Okay. On this slide, just wanted to check that apart from the proportion, is it the intention also? That element is also added, or because people can donate everything, but
proportion, intention, we spoke about intention, that will determine whether it is a nirgun charity or it falls into one of those 3 charities. In addition to the proportion, intention, the timing and the patra also matters, right? Somebody needs it today and you are telling, okay, I'll give it to you, but I'll give it to you after 10 days. Okay, when it's no longer needed, what's the point? And if you give it to a patra that is going to misutilize it and then do something bad with it, then also you get the result. So all these factors come into picture. That's why it's an intricate science. It's not a straightforward science, right? If you simply say, okay, my intention was good and hands off, thank you very much. No, that's not what our scriptures are telling us, right? So it's a little deeper nuance than that. And that is why it's important to work under the expert guidance of a guru. If you find one, typically they will tell you what's the best use of that money if you want to donate or do charity. Otherwise, you will find your own cause and you might be operating in one of those three realms. Nirgun charity is when you do it in the service of God and Guru, because they know what is the best use. Now, God is not going to come and say, hey, you put it in the temple, I will show you where I'm going to put it. He will do it in his own ways. But then his representative Guru would know that best. Because Guru, typically, what is the definition of Guru? Let's again go back to the fundamentals. The one who is completely surrendered to God, who has become God realized, who has seen the truth. Now he's acting as an instrument of God, then it is essentially as good as giving it to God only at that point. Technically, if we look at it that way. Yes, let's hear from others. Maybe one more, and then we have time. Any quick announcements you wanted to make? I have one key announcements. I said, look out for the trivia. July 1st, 10 a.m. CST is the date, okay? You don't want to miss out on. It's going to change your life forever. I wanted to make that announcement. Any other announcements?
We have made two announcements. One is that we already announced about Guru Purnima. And then we have the family camp coming up from 4th July. Please join people in around Dallas. This is the time of the year. Please don't miss it. That's it, I guess, main two things.
Thank you. Yes, and you still have time to register online if you haven't. I think it's at a pretty nominal price. And you get
700 INR, yeah. It's very basic amount.
500 INR, so it's not big. So please check it out. Okay, maybe one more real quick, and then we'll wrap up our session. I know we have a hard stop in another 2 minutes.
We have some time. We have some time, isn't it?
How much?
We have some time. 12 minutes. 10 minutes.
No, it's 10. Not today, though, because we have a hard stop, right, on Tuesdays?
At 8:30 IST.
Oh, we have time?
I think we have 12 minutes, Nitinji.
Oh, 12 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm stuck in a time warp here. Okay, yes, we have time, guys. Go ahead. Let me bring in another.
Yeah.
Yes, Rupaji, go ahead. Rupaji,
yeah.
What you're saying is...
Radhe everyone. My question was, my question was the same like how you, Nitinji, explained right now. Here, the intention is more important. And I mean, as per your previous story, the quantity of charity is not that important, but the intention and also the patra. These are more important than anything else for any charity.
And proportion also, right? Like we
the
spoke
portion,
about.
Yeah, the portion what we are donating from our side. Yeah.
Right, 10% rule.
These three are considered for a charity, right?
That's right. That's right. The 10% rule is always there. In fact, it is said 10%. If we go by the stricter definition of charity, 10% is just the hygiene criteria.
As per Kanda Purana yesterday you spoke, yeah.
Ekdasham. And that is just a entry criteria or a hygiene criteria for you to justify your existence as a human.
But
for all
upon all this, if that charity was utilized for the wrong cause, or the path is not good, how are we responsible for if it is in the wrong path? But how do we know whether it is a correct or a wrong path?
It's not straightforward to know. I get that. It's not straightforward to know that, right? You can make a best guess and pray to God around that, right? By the way, we spoke about food thing yesterday, right? Food also, the best, safest policy in that case is to offer it to God, and then offer it to God and then give it, okay, as a prasadam. Because otherwise, even prasadam should not be distributed, right? If you look at it, langars and all, they do that. And in fact, when you offer it as a prasad and give it, it brings about a change in consciousness as well. I think in Latin America, they carried out not an experiment, but people would, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, ISKCON, people would simply stand on the traffic lights and start distributing the energy bars. And those energy bars, they would bring in from the arti that was done in the temple earlier during the day. And when they would distribute it, people would just eat it. They would think they would charge money for it. They didn't. And just by eating those bars, their consciousness started changing and they started coming to temple, and some of them went on to become great devotees afterwards. So that is the power of prasad. So when you do it, the safest bet is to offer it to God and then offer, take it as a remnant of God as a prasad and then distribute. Okay, if you really want to give food to anybody, that might foolproof. I don't say foolproof, but at least make it better. Kind of a charity. Yes, quite a few hands. We can take all of
In
them.
the meantime, there's a comment from Shalvari ji on the question you have asked. Dhan is easy as we earn, we can donate. Dhan comes when you are completely dedicated in seva. Mind is most difficult due to nature of man. Radhe Radhe.
Very true, Sharwariji. Good point. I'd say there are 3 stages in human life. First, we learn, then we earn, and then we return. Okay, so if we earn and then hold, that's where the problem becomes. So we learn, we earn, and then we return. Great point, Sharvi. And dhan is the easiest. Everybody can do that. But if dhan is not there, there are other ways to render service. You can give your time. And then some people say, you know what, I'm doing one seva, so I don't need to give tan and dhan. The point is, if you do one seva, the tan and dhan will automatically follow. Okay, this is how it is supposed to work, because man comes a later stage. Mansi seva. Anyways, yes, let's take 4 more hands.
Can I share my thoughts? Then I want to say something.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, then I want to share.
You are co-host, you have that privilege, right? And I think your wife is going to say something as well. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Radhe
Radhe
Radhe.
Radhe everyone. Radhe Radhe Nitinji. I was listening since a few days about charity. People are talking and giving their thoughts. So I just thought that I should also give my thought. There are a few things which I've been following in my life. One is, the first important is, charity with dignity, which I mean, sometimes we have extra money, sometimes we don't have after post-COVID. So, but, we keep haggling with these street hawkers and small vendors about the money, when we are buying something. So, that is when we give them whatever they are asking, or maybe 5 or 10 rupees extra to them, that is, charity with dignity. And otherwise also our employees and everybody, those who work for us, that is where we can start. It's a small thing from where we start the charity. And the second thing is, yes, 10% rule is very important. Every month we really need to take out 10% for charity. But at the same time, there are so many families, those who are going through a lot of financial crisis. But, if you actually have an intention, a will to do good, that is also add as a good karma. Because, again, that will to do good should not be with any ifs and buts. So, and otherwise also charity, like you said, tan and man, we can do service to the guru or to the society or something like that. And, in that ways also, that is also part of charity that I believe in. So that is why I just wanted to add my thoughts to that. And I told Sham that, can I say something? Then he said, yes, you can. So that's about Radhe Radhe.
Always good to hear insights from you, Reena ji. Very true. That's essentially. See, we are going by the definition of charity, the Dasham part. If you go at the stricter rule, actually, of course, we are not ready for it as yet, right? But in advanced stages, it say that anything beyond that is needed for your living, you should not hold it. It's called poison. Swami Vivekananda had said that what is poison? The definition of poison, or anything over and above that you have, which you need for your sustenance, is poison. But those are advanced stages, right? And then even Maharaj used to say that, 10% is okay. You're justifying your existence because you kill ants. Even speaking or cooking process also kills so many microorganisms and stuff like that. So it covers that. Charity begins beyond that. He used to say 80-90% as well, right? Maybe one of these days we can reach that stage. We have said, okay, we are completely ashrit on you, but at least there's a starting point with the 1/10 rule. Our scriptures are telling you, start building that discipline in your mind. It doesn't belong to us. It's just like you raise a kid, right? It becomes a non-negotiable expense. We don't even say, okay, I can't do this for you. I can't sponsor you. I can't send you to school, because we just make it a non-negotiable thing in our head, right? That kind of a mindset. Tomorrow we're going to cover about that, the deal that we strike with God when we come to this world, okay? That deal, that part of the deal, we are not honoring it. So we'll talk about it tomorrow, but yeah, good point. Thank you. We'll take maybe 2 more hands and then we'll wrap up our session.
Monica, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe, Radhe Radhe Nitinji. Nitinji, I just wanted to add on the bad pathway, right? Meaning how to decide where to contribute. So I think we all are educated and we can take an educated guess, because when you look at a guru, or, for example, our Swamiji, I mean, he's an IITian, right? So he might have had, much better and comfortable life, but he chose, for people like us to show us the divine path, right? So you can find out the background, and you can take an educated guess then and there, right? And as far as temples are concerned, I know it's my own personal thing. I may be wrong here, but then if I ask somebody about one temple who misused, we will not have the name. It is basically that Bollywood who has brainwashed. This is what I really believe, because if you try and Google which temple actually misused money, you will not find even one. For temples also, I really encourage people to associate themselves to the temples and see where the money is going. Even you even don't have to find out. You yourself will actually start collecting money for the temple. It's that biased. So I just wanted to contribute there.
Very true. I'll tell you one thing. The tradition Mormonism, which is an offshoot of Catholic, may not be an offshoot, basically. It's another thriving religion here in US. And the Mormon churches, they are the most funded organization in this world. All the Mormons, directly from their salary, 10% goes to that church, no question asked. Okay, that's the way of life. That is how organized they are. And that is how they've taken it to the next level. It's not up to the discretion of an individual where they keep on changing minds. It's like no questions asked. 10% from your salary, whoever you are, goes to the church. And it is one of the most funded organizations in the world, richest churches in the world. Check it out. I think they're based out of Salt Lake, and I have a lot of Mormon friends. So I was really impressed by the way they have structured it. So when kids are experimenting with drugs and stuff like that, they are funding those kids to send out to the world, the missionaries, to spread their religion and do some social service at that time. So those kids, it's like, that is how they are doing it in a very systematic manner. So no questions asked. People accept it as part of their life. And that is where we can pick up a cue from them as well, when this comes to the 10% rule. It's pretty interesting if somebody's organized around that.
Thank you for bringing this up, Nitinji. In fact, just one more small example. Amazon Smile account. Whatever you buy from Amazon, they just stopped it like almost 2 months ago, but whatever you buy from Amazon, 0.5% of that purchase goes to charity. And if you don't choose the charity, we don't even know about Amazon Smile initiative, but if you don't choose the charity, Amazon Smile themselves, they would just give it to churches. And I'm talking about like $240 billion goes just like that. When I came to know about this, I wanted to register Radhakrishna Temple, but then 2 months ago, they stopped this initiative. But then that had been since the time Amazon had started. So Jeff Bezos, they take care of their stuff. But, when we try and contribute something, even 10 rupees to a temple, things comes to our mind. So we have to do our due diligence. Is all what I was saying.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Monica. Something new that I learned today as well. All right, last one. Sandhya, you wanted to add something?
We have 2 comments there.
One more minute. Yes.
Shivamya says, no matter how much I give, there's always another charity request for which I say no, and there's some guilt. How does one reconcile with this?
No, you have to be reasonable about it. Keep your budget that you have for charity and pick up for the cause that you associate to most, right? You don't have to feel guilty about it. Define your budget for that, and then say, okay, I've already come to the threshold, and do I even have an appetite to do more? So that's your personal call. Guilt is not, see, when you talk about guilt, it's a lower feeling that you're tapping into, which we should refrain from. Higher energy, the spirituality is a battle between fighting our lower energy with our higher self. And guilt is one of those things we need to conquer no matter what. Okay, I know we are on time. I see Sunil Bhai and Ajay already there. So we'd hand it over to them. Sandhya, maybe feedback tracker, or we can discuss later. So over to you, Ajay and Sunil Bhai.
Thank you, Nitin Bhai. Wonderful discussion as always about charity.